It is finally time. Today I'm reviewing episodes 1 and 2 of the One Piece live action. Now I am going to be reviewing the other episodes as well. I know I'm a little bit late, but what can I say? I was busy. I still want to talk about Netflix's One Piece because I have been enjoying it so much. Now when I first heard there was a One Piece live action adaptation in the works, like many others, I thought it was going to belly flop so hard. But I'm happy to say I was proven wrong. Netflix's One Piece has broken the curse of a long string of bad anime adaptations. This is not another Cowboy Bebop. It's not another Bleach or Full Metal Alchemist or Death Note or Dragon Ball. Yes, I own this. Don't ask why. Maybe I'll review it on the channel sometime. Anyways, this adaptation truly captures the heart and soul of the wonderful manga created by Oda. And the passion and effort that the team has put into this adaptation is paying off. It is currently the #1 show in 84 countries on Netflix, surpassing the record set by Stranger Things and Wednesday. So yeah, you could say this is a major success. My expectations for this were incredibly low, but then I saw the trailer, and then seeing all the press interviews with the cast, the hype began. And then I was worried I was getting overhyped, but no, I was the perfect level of hype. Now, Katie and I ended up watching this together, and the fact that I can watch this show with Katie, who has had no exposure to One Piece, and see her laugh and enjoy this crazy series means so much to me. And the fact that this is going to introduce One Piece to so many families and so many people who wouldn't have otherwise given the story a chance, I think is just incredible, and it's one of the most positive things that's come of this adaptation, whether you like it or not. Now for context, I'm someone who's read and watched a bit of One Piece growing up, but I never really got that far into it. Now, as a 27-year-old, I have decided to commit to reading all of the manga. I've just kind of started on this journey. I already have a review up for the first 3 arcs of the manga, and I have many more reviews planned. I should have a review for Barity and the Arlong Park arcs very soon, and I've been putting a lot of effort and editing into those videos, so if you want to follow me on my One Piece journey, then make sure to watch my manga reviews. Anyways, today I'm gonna start off by giving my overall spoiler-free thoughts on the show and these 2 episodes. Then after that, I'm gonna dive into spoilers and talk about all my thoughts throughout these 2 episodes. One Piece is honestly a series that feels like it's impossible to adapt. It can be very goofy at times with absurd humor, and it can lean into those cartoon facial expressions. And it's also just incredibly long, with over 1,000 episodes of the anime and over 1,090 chapters of the manga. Clearly, it's impossible for them to make a one-to-one adaptation, and I think you'd be silly to be expecting that. Obviously, they're going to have to cut some characters, they're going to have to cut some story elements, and they're going to have to change things in order to make it work in live action. And thankfully, the changes they've made so far, I think, are done really well. You can tell they put a lot of love and care into this, and they're honoring the original. This is something I wish we got to see with the Witcher adaptation and the Wheel of Time adaptation. I think when you're tackling big series like this, it's important to honor the original, because then the fans are going to be on board. So my intention in this review is not to just compare the source material and complain. I will be pointing out a few things they changed that maybe I didn't think worked quite as well, but I also just want to be reviewing this as its own thing and if it's working as an adaptation. And so far, I am happy to say it's an incredible adaptation, from the casting to the choreography, the special effects. The way these characters that we love are portrayed in the show just works really well, and I'm very pleasantly surprised. The set pieces, the design, and costumes are so great. The chemistry between Luffy, Zoro, and Nami is so great. You can tell that they just work really good together. Comedy, I think, was handled really well. They kind of tone it down a bit, but still keep the essence of it, so it's not so in your face, which keeps it from feeling cringy. I didn't feel like any of this was cringy, which is awesome for an anime adaptation. And like I said, the changes made thus far are solid. And I gotta say that Luffy was such a joy to watch on the screen. Godoy just is a ball of sunshine. I was smiling the whole time whenever Luffy was on the screen. I feel like there really is no better actor to play Luffy. He's a little older and more mature version of Luffy than what we see in the anime, but he still captures the essence of that character and the goofiness and quirks. And of course, the pure optimism, which is one of my favorite aspects about Luffy. The pacing of the show was much better than I was expecting, though it does still feel sort of rushed at times because they have a lot of story to cover. Now, the camera work was something that I wasn't completely sold on. At times, there was just some weird things that were happening. They kind of overused these super close-ups. They also had like a fisheye lens at several parts that just, it felt kind of out of place. This didn't happen all the time, but it was enough for me to notice it. And I'm hoping that will be improved with season 2 because it just felt kind of out of place. Now, a reoccurring reason for the failure of many anime adaptations, especially in a Western context, is their inability to embrace those qualities that made the original so engaging. But here they somehow managed to preserve those qualities and make it all work in live action. I'm really curious to know what someone new to One Piece thinks of this adaptation, because I feel like if I was watching this for the first time, I would be really fascinated by the inconsistent tone. It's something that I think actually works really well here. We have the really wacky, silly goofiness of One Piece, but then it's set in this more darker, violent backdrop that has some really serious moments. And it kind of gives like a whiplash effect, but it works well. I don't know if I explained that good. I hope you get what I mean. The shift between Luffy being lighthearted and goofy, and then Zoro slicing somebody in half. That's that kind of unique dynamic that I'm talking about. The pure passion oozing out of this at every moment is clear. I mean, I would give this an 11 out of 10 on casting. I feel like all the actors are really into their role, they're enjoying it, and I think the whole team this is a passion project for them. The show manages to make a ton of nods to the original. There is so many Easter eggs that my eyes were basically glued to the screen the entire time, trying to pick up as many Easter eggs as I could find. So yeah, overall, I'm enjoying it. But now with all those thoughts out of the way, I'm gonna dive into my spoiler thoughts, going scene by scene through episodes 1 and 2. I'm not gonna be giving like a full summary. This is just, I just want to tell you guys my thoughts. Episode 1 starts off with the classic Gold Roger execution scene where he gives a speech that kickstarts the golden age of pirates. And they nailed the scene. I love the design of Roger, I love his laugh, I love seeing the bounty poster fly over his face, but you can't see what the bounty is or how much it is. And then one of my favorite things is just looking at the crowd and noticing all the faces of younger versions of characters that are there, that are present. We see a younger Shanks, we see Mihawk, and likely a younger version of Smoker. However, I did notice that Roger never called it his One Piece. He never named the treasure, and that's like such an iconic moment of the anime. Wait, is it? Maybe that doesn't happen in the manga though. I don't remember. I know I just read it, but I also watched the anime. I don't know if that's when he calls it One Piece in the manga. Let me know. Because if it was mentioned in the manga and the anime, it would kind of seem like a bizarre omission here. But I don't know. I'm probably wrong. And then we get Luffy's opening scene, which we saw in the trailer. And from the moment that Inaki Godoy is on screen, he just embodies Luffy, especially that relentless sense of optimism. I just love it so much. There was a moment where I was kind of worried because I thought he was directly talking to the camera, and I would find that very cringy. Turns out he was just talking to a bird and trying to recruit it to his crew, which, yeah, that's so Luffy. Luffy is a really easy character to make annoying, but they managed to avoid that. Godoy perfectly has the same charisma and charm that Luffy has. It's just a bit more toned down, which I think is needed. I think that's an overall direction of the show. They're kind of taming down some aspects of the characters in order to make them work. And that's good, that's expected, because One Piece uses a lot of exaggerated expressions that are not going to translate well into live action. Now, they don't do the big whirlpool scene. I think that would have been really cool to see in live action. However, they do keep Luffy getting into a barrel to survive, which is great. And then that leads us to Elvida's ship. I absolutely love that they're including the goofy, fun designs of the ships. That's something I loved so much about the anime. We then meet Koby, a poor coward boy who wants to be a marine, but he's been captured by Iron Mace Elvida. Now, Morgan Davies, I think, does a really excellent job at capturing Koby's character. Every scene, Koby's looking nervous or scared, and that's so true to the character. We get that classic moment where Lady Elvida smashes her club over Luffy's head, and then we get to see his gum-gum powers, and I feel like the special effects here are pretty good. I've seen some people complain. I don't know, guys. I think it looks pretty good. Though throughout the season, I do feel like some of the effects are, some of his gum-gum abilities are kind of reserved a bit. They could be using them more often, but obviously it's expensive to make those effects. I hope that in season 2, that Netflix will just, you know, go all out with the effects and everything, and hopefully we'll have like a higher episode count in season 2 as well. Because they have an absolute monster of a show now, and with the success of this one, they got gotta give it their all. Now, in true One Piece fashion, we're taken to Windmill Village 10 years prior, and we see a child version of Luffy. And shout out to the child actor here, I think he did a really fantastic job. We meet Shanks, a pirate who so heavily inspired Luffy, it's become like basically his #1 person that he looked up to. Now, I was not completely sold on the actor they chose for Shanks. I've gotten used to it now, I'm fine with it, but I just feel like Shanks is a character that can be, you know, he can have his lovable, lighthearted moments when, you know, he's teasing Luffy, but then he can also be super intimidating, and I'm not really getting that intimidation from the actor they chose. Shanks tries to teach him that being a pirate isn't all about the brawls and the swashbuckling, but it's about the freedom to live how one wishes. And, you know, then we get the whole scene with Luffy eating the gum fruit. One amazing detail is that you can hear Bink's sake playing when Shanks is stitching up Luffy's cheek, and I'm not that far into the anime and manga yet. However, I do know this song just from the fandom, and I know that that is just such a powerful thing, and it works really well in this scene. Now, the introduction to Zoro definitely went differently than in the source material, but it works really well. An agent from Baroque Works is sent to recruit Zoro, and Zoro defeating Mr. 7 is a canon event, and I think it perfectly works as an introduction for Zoro. We never got to see this happen in the manga or anime. I think it was mentioned in volume 13 or volume 12. I just finished reading those, and it was confirmed by Oda to have happened as well. We just don't see this event actually take place. But showing that this early on foreshadows that there's bigger threats out there, and this world is a much bigger place, and that's something that Oda does really well in the manga, and I'm happy to see that translate here with the changes they've made in the adaptation. I did not expect to see Baroque Works this early on, but it feels like they're really banking on this having a second season. Now, this is actually a huge advantage that this adaptation has, is that they have the hindsight of looking back at all of Oda's work and tying things together stronger so that they can foreshadow things early on and just make it all more interrelated. It is clearly setting up for a season 2 with Baroque Works and Crocodile as the main bad guys. Now, moving on to the very best introduction of this episode, and that goes surprisingly to Helmeppo. It honestly kind of shocked me that one of the main standouts of this episode was Helmeppo, of all people. Huge props to Aidan Scott. He does a phenomenal job bringing this character to life, and for all those King Killer Chronicle fans out there, I feel like he would make a really good Ambrose. Anyways, I love when they all meet in the bar, and Nami is so Nami. She's taking advantage of every moment. Meanwhile, Kobe is scared, and Luffy is just admiring Zoro's crazy abilities. And I truly loved seeing Zoro casually dodge attacks and use his surroundings to prove that he doesn't have to use his swords in a fight that isn't worth it. Now, they really lean hard on the edgy side of Zoro in this adaptation, and it works well. However, I do feel like sometimes the line delivery is just a little bit off, and I also hope that we're gonna see more of the other sides of Zoro. He does have a full range of emotions. I was really happy to see they included the part with the little girl who made the rice balls. It just doesn't exactly work that well, I think, in this scene, because like in the original, Zoro was starving, and it showed the compassion of the villagers and this little girl, and it was more reason for why Zoro ate it off the ground. Here, it's like they keep mentioning that Zoro protected that little girl. He didn't really protect her. He just sort of instigated a fight with Helmeppo. Anyways, not that big of a deal, but I did prefer how it went down more in the manga. I do think it was really great how they brought Nami into this early and the way they foreshadow her hatred for pirates. Also, it just seems like we're getting a really badass Nami, and I think it's working well. Again, the actors have great chemistry, and I feel like the show really shines when we get to see their characters bounce off of each other in scenes that weren't originally in the manga. I really enjoyed the interaction between Nami and Luffy, and how Luffy was so bad at lying to Axan Morgan. Then of course later in the map room when they're looking for the map to the Grand Line. I don't know, I just found that entire scene so entertaining. I absolutely love how they're like, how do we add fan service to this in a way that nobody would expect? Who do we not want to see naked? And to the one fan who's always wanted to see Helmeppo's butt, you won't be disappointed. Zoro walking in on that was so funny, and then how he basically just shames Helmeppo by cutting his hair, giving him that classic He-Man style mushroom cut, just out of pure spite, and to shame him was hilarious. And then of course the big fight scene in the courtyard, and Nami and Luffy and Zoro, they all intercept with each other. I love how Zoro is like just about to leave, but then he decides to join the fight. I still do prefer how it went down in the manga much more. I liked the version of Zoro where he was like starving for days and Luffy was interacting with him tied up, and how they proved their abilities to each other and kind of learned how to trust each other during that time. I feel like we're kind of missing a bit of that here, but the fight was very impressive. I do gotta say, probably my biggest complaint of this episode was actually Axe-Hand Morgan. I did not find him to be that intimidating tyrant that he was in the manga. I mean, in the manga, he tells his marines to kill the little girl. He orders them to kill themselves, and he's this big tyrant to the entire village, and you can definitely feel that he was much more of a villain in the source material. Also in the, I don't know what it is, just his costume design, his axe looks brand new, his jaw is all shiny chrome. I don't know, I just didn't feel like he was as intimidating as he was. Super clean costumes is something that always kind of bothers me, and we do unfortunately get that in this adaptation quite a few times. Now, I don't mean to speak for everyone, but I'm going to. I think we all loved the scene where Luffy calls them his crew, and they're like, "We're not your crew." It actually happens a few times throughout the episode. I also much preferred the way that Kobe stayed and joined the Marines in the anime and the manga, because it just didn't really make that much sense here. I guess Helmeppo doesn't know that Kobe was the one to punch him. Maybe he thinks Luffy surprise attacked him, and then Kobe was the one to drag him away. But in the manga, I love how the Marines were actually really happy that Luffy and Zoro took out Axe-Hand Morgan, and they all salute. I think that was such a powerful moment. And of course, when Luffy basically pushes Kobe to punch him and to chase after his dreams and become a Marine. It just felt way more rewarding and powerful, but hey, what can you do? I was so happy they managed to get through so many early chapters in one episode. And then the ending, when we see Buggy appear on the screen, that made me have the biggest smile on my face. And that we need to talk about episode 2 now. 100% Buggy steals the show. I love that we're getting these live action bounty reveals. That was not something I was expecting to see. It's kind of a reference to the ad breaks in the anime where a wanted poster would fly on the screen showing a character, and I love that they added this interactive element to it. It makes me so excited to see the next bounty poster. It's kind of like Scott Pilgrim cheesy, but that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. The crew is working on cracking the safe. I think we see a wanted poster for like Kuro or something, and then they're kidnapped by a bunch of pirates, but not any pirates. Pirates of the infamous Buggy, a clown that has a nose complex and the habit of dismembering himself. The actor playing Buggy made this character feel so psychotic, and he just did such an amazing job. Totally knocked it out of the park for me, and it just made me enjoy this episode so much. Now, the set design, the small details of the circus, I loved. I think we get to see a poster of the lion at one point. Unfortunately, the lion and the lion man, I forgot their names, were not included in this adaptation, but we did get that little Easter egg of seeing the poster. One of my only criticisms here is that Zoro very quickly shows his loyalty and his belief in Luffy. And I just feel like we didn't get enough time with them together yet to deserve Zoro putting his trust in Luffy. It could be he was just drawn in and enticed by Luffy's carefree attitude. Actually, I guess now that I think about it, even in the source material, Zoro does decide to put a lot of belief and faith into Luffy pretty quickly, I guess. But anyway, it's just something I noticed, and I think someone new to One Piece would probably notice this as well, that Zoro very quickly put his trust in Luffy. Also, Luffy eating the map. I love that we're getting that dumb, silly, goofy side of Luffy. Now we get a scene where Nami tries to escape and she runs outside and she sees the destruction that they did to this village. Unfortunately, we didn't get to see the Buggy Balls in action, but we did see the aftermath. And the twist that they give to Orangetown here, the way that Buggy was forcing the townsfolk to be part of his show and forcing them to laugh, that was so sinister, and it just really adds this darker tone to this arc. And while it is a little different of a direction, I think it works really well for this psychotic clown. Now, Luffy and Nami manage to pull off a trap where they hit Buggy's limbs into these chests, and then Luffy follows this with a Gum Gum Bazooka and blasts Buggy away Team Rocket style. I genuinely really loved all the circus stuff, and I really liked the CGI here as well. The depiction of Buggy'S powers I thought was really well done. It's not too outlandish, it doesn't feel like Uncanny Valley, and then we get to see some more prominent usage of Luffy's powers than what we saw in the premiere. Unfortunately, we never got the classic scene of Luffy kicking Buggy in the balls, but we did get Mini Buggy. Also, the CGI of the sea monster. I need to talk about the flashback, but the CGI of the sea monster I really liked. And just the design itself I thought was fantastic. Seeing Shanks' crew in action was so much fun. I loved the trick shot that Yasopp did. And you could see on his shoulder that there was some gunpowder there, so you know he's done this before. I do gotta say, in the manga, there's a few panels where it was just so badass how his team just wiped out the mountain bandits so quickly. But hey, I did really like how they handled it here as well, and it was awesome to see Yasopp's marksmanship this early on. Now, Shanks goes to save Luffy, and he shoos away the sea beast like it was a dog, and again, here, it's just like, he's just not as intimidating as he is in the source material. It just doesn't really give off the same effect, I guess, in my opinion. I don't know. Let me know what you thought of Shanks. Some of the emotional beats of the flashbacks just don't really hit as hard as they do in the source material. I don't know how they can do it better, though. I'm just not getting the gut-wrenching emotions when watching this. I don't know. Let me know what you thought. And we get the classic scene where Shanks puts the hat on Luffy, and I did think this was done perfectly. Even just the angle of the hat, it manages to capture that moment really well. Oh, and we need to talk about Koby and Helmeppo. I'm glad that we're getting Koby and Helmeppo's training here as Marines. However, Koby, I don't know, Garp has favor over Koby because he tied a knot? Regardless, I'm very confused why Garp and Koby, why they're putting so much focus on these two. It kind of feels like they want to make Koby like a core character of the show, and it seems likely they're going to continue this B-plot of Koby and Garp, but so far it doesn't seem that important, I guess. Oh yeah, and then we get to see that Morgan got put on the cross because he failed to get the Grand Line map, but I mean, it's not like he's done anything especially bad, like in the manga where he was terrorizing the village and even the other Navy officers wanted him gone. He is openly corrupt in the manga. However, here, he doesn't really do anything too bad, so it kind of makes Garp seem like the villain for giving such a harsh punishment. Sadly, they cut out Chow Chow in this adaptation. I was kind of expecting that. However, it was one of my favorite parts of the original arc. But they at least give Chow Chow a little cameo, which made me so happy. And how can I forget to mention the transponder snails? They're so weird and gross and kind of cursed. I'm so glad they chose to accurately adapt these. And then it ends with Nami pulling out this communication device, which is kind of a unique invention, and she lets somebody know that she has the map and to tell him. And that ends episode 2. Now, both of these episodes have had to cram a lot of content, and that's why there's lots of things cut, but the changes made, I think, makes it flow really well. I think somebody new watching the show would be able to keep up with all the references. I would say these two episodes work really well together. The pacing and the structure are consistent and complementary. It's kind of like we're watching an alternate universe version of One Piece, but I'm loving every second of it. Coming from someone who recently read these arcs in the manga, it's really refreshing to see the changes they made. I don't feel bored because I know what's gonna happen. Instead, I'm excited to see what's going to happen next because I truly don't know. And that is my review for episodes 1 and 2 of the One Piece live action. Let me know what you thought of these episodes, and if you want to see me make more episode reviews, let me know your favorite part of these 2 episodes. I am really enjoying everything One Piece at the moment. It would mean a lot to me if you stuck around for my manga reviews. I got quite a few of them coming soon, and I'm excited to share them with you guys. Anyways, a huge thank you to all of my patrons. You guys make these videos possible, and I'll see you guys next time.